To truly see someone's character, you don't need to spend years analyzing them. You just need to notice four key things. Four timeless signs drawn from the wisdom of Stoic philosophy can reveal who a person really is. Welcome to Deep Dive Stoic. Before you think about skipping ahead, let me ask you something. How well do you really know the people around you or even yourself? What I'm about to share isn't just another quick list of personality tests or surface-level tips. It's a deep dive into something far more powerful and timeless. The wisdom of Stoic philosophy and how it can uncover someone's true character in ways most people never even notice. For over 2,000 years, Stoicism has helped people see the world with greater clarity. It doesn't teach us to judge by charm or status. It teaches us to look deeper, to look past the image, past the words, and into the habits that reveal a person's nature. Because character isn't about what someone says. It's about what they do, especially when things are hard, inconvenient, or unseen. Today, we're exploring four powerful observations, simple in appearance, but incredibly revealing. These timeless signs are just as relevant now as they were in the days of Marcus Aurelius. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and prepare to shift how you see others, and maybe even yourself. These four principles won't just help you recognize true character. They'll challenge you to live with more clarity, strength, and wisdom. Let's begin. Sign number 1. How they treat the powerless and what they do when no one is watching. If you want to see someone's true character, stop watching how they treat the people they want something from. Start watching how they treat the people who have nothing to offer them. The powerless, the unseen, the overlooked. This is where real character lives. And this is where Stoicism offers us one of the most powerful lessons about human nature. The Stoics taught us that virtue is not something to be claimed. It is something to be lived. And one of the clearest ways we live it is in how we interact with others who cannot repay us, reward us, or raise our status. In fact, Seneca once said, "Treat your inferiors as you would wish your superiors to treat you." That line alone reveals something eternal about character. Because the truth is, many people act kind only when it benefits them. But real kindness, the kind that flows from within, shows up even when there's nothing in it for you. Look closely at the way someone speaks to a waiter. Watch how they treat a cashier or a delivery driver. Do they offer eye contact, a smile, or a thank you? Or do they act as if that person does not exist? The difference may seem small, but it says everything. A person who acknowledges the dignity in everyone, regardless of role or status, is someone who values people for who they are, not for what they can give. That is a rare kind of strength. But this test of character goes even further, because it's not just about how people treat others in public. It's about how they behave when there is no one watching. No recognition, no consequences, just their conscience and their choices. Do they put the shopping cart back in the rack when it's raining and no one's around to see it? Do they clean up after themselves in shared spaces without being told? Do they keep a promise to a friend, even if the friend forgets? These small actions are more than habits. They are signals of internal order, discipline, and integrity. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, believed that to live in harmony with nature meant to live consistently with reason and virtue. That consistency is tested not when we are rewarded, but when we are alone. The moments of private choice reveal our inner world far more honestly than any speech ever could. Imagine someone walking through a crowded street and accidentally bumped by an elderly person. The impatient one snaps or scowls. The thoughtful one offers a gentle smile and says, "It's okay." Now picture the same person later that day finding a wallet on the ground. What do they do next? That decision speaks louder than any post or quote they've ever shared, because in that moment, no one is judging them. No one is applauding. The only thing guiding them is their character. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This isn't just a quote to remember. It's a way to see the truth in people. Their reactions to unexpected or inconvenient situations tell you whether they are ruled by impulse or guided by principle. And if they act with kindness, patience, and honesty when the world is not looking, they are living proof of real virtue. In the workplace, the same rule applies. The teammate who gives credit to others, who follows through on responsibilities, who stays true to their word, even when no one is keeping score, that person is operating from an internal code, not external pressure. And over time, that code builds trust, admiration, and quiet leadership. People follow those who live with integrity, even if they never seek attention. On the other hand, those who fake kindness when it's convenient, but treat others poorly, behind closed doors, are eventually exposed. The mask slips. Because the truth cannot be hidden forever. Patterns of behavior, no matter how small, always reveal the underlying character. You can only pretend for so long. Sooner or later, the way you treat people in private becomes the story others begin to tell about you. And here's the part many people miss: how we treat others is not just a reflection of them. It's a reflection of us. Every small act of respect, patience, or honesty reinforces who we are becoming. Each time we choose kindness without recognition, we strengthen the muscles of virtue. And those muscles are what carry us through the bigger tests of life. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What injures the hive injures the bee." We are all connected. When we disrespect others, even in seemingly invisible ways, we damage the larger fabric of community and trust. But when we uplift others through unseen acts of kindness, we reinforce that fabric. We inspire those around us, even if they never say it out loud. Think of the quiet person who stays late to help clean up after an event, or the one who lets someone go ahead in line just because it might brighten their day. These actions might seem small to the world, but they are enormous in the development of the soul. They create a sense of alignment between who we are and who we want to be. Epictetus once said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." Stoicism is not a theory to be quoted. It is a practice to be lived, especially when no one else is paying attention. So the next time you want to know who someone really is, don't look at their resume. Don't rely on what they say about themselves. Watch how they treat the powerless. Pay attention to how they act when the lights are off and the room is empty. That is where their real character lives. And as you do this, ask yourself the same questions. How do I behave when kindness offers no reward? How do I act when no one is watching? What do my habits say about my values? These moments are not small. They are the foundation of everything. Because in the end, character is not what we show when we know others are looking. It is what we live when the only witness is ourselves. Sign number 2. How they handle the small disruptions and honor their commitments. You don't need a crisis to see someone's real strength. Most of the time, you can see it in how they react to life's everyday annoyances. The small disruptions, the unplanned delays, the missed calls, the long lines, the wrong coffee order. How a person responds to these minor challenges tells you almost everything you need to know about their emotional discipline, their maturity, and their self-control. The Stoics believed that the key to life isn't what happens to you, but how you respond to what happens. Epictetus made this crystal clear when he said, "It's not events that disturb people, it's their judgments about them." That means the spilled drink, the missed train, the broken plan. These things don't define your day. Your reaction does. So, the question is simple. When things don't go as planned, do they lose control? Or do they stay composed? You can learn a lot about someone by sitting beside them in traffic. Does their energy shift immediately to frustration? Do they lash out, honk the horn, curse at the world around them? Or do they accept the situation, maybe even find something useful to do with that unexpected moment of stillness? One choice drains everyone around them. The other sets a calm example. This principle applies to every corner of daily life. A person spills a drink on their shirt. Does it ruin their whole mood? Their food arrives a few minutes late. Do they blame the server, complain loudly, or make a scene? Or do they respond with understanding, maybe even a bit of humor? These reactions are not random. They come from what is already inside. Impatience, entitlement, and anger don't come from events. They come from habits that have been allowed to grow unchecked. The person who handles minor inconveniences with patience is someone who is cultivating mastery over themselves. And Stoicism teaches us that self-mastery is the foundation of peace. If someone cannot handle a slow checkout line without collapsing into irritation, how will they respond when life gives them something truly difficult? Now let's take this a step further, because how a person responds to inconveniences is often linked to how they manage the most limited resource of all time. Time is the one thing we cannot get back, yet most people treat it carelessly. Seneca wrote, "People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to wasting time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy." That line should make us pause, because the way someone spends their time is the clearest map of what they truly value. So ask yourself, are they punctual? Do they show up when they say they will? Do they keep their promises even when it's inconvenient? Or do they make commitments lightly, only to abandon them when something more exciting comes along? A person who honors their time and the time of others is showing respect, not just for a calendar, but for the shared life we all participate in. Being on time, following through, being present, these are not small gestures. They are the invisible threads that build trust and reliability. And trust, once broken by careless behavior, takes far longer to rebuild than it took to damage. In the workplace, this becomes even more obvious. Someone who respects deadlines, prepares for meetings, and follows through on their word is more than just efficient. They are dependable. They make everyone around them feel more at ease, because their actions are steady and predictable. They are not thrown off course by minor setbacks. They don't blame others or shrink from responsibility. They respond with action, with clarity, and with focus. And what about flexibility? Because life doesn't always go according to plan. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to expect disruptions. He said, "You must build up your life action by action and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible." So how does someone respond when things change last minute? Do they adapt with grace, or do they spiral into frustration and blame? You can learn so much about a person by how they use their time and how they respond when time turns against them. Think about someone who constantly cancels plans, arrives late, or forgets promises. At first it might seem harmless, but over time these patterns reveal a deeper truth. They may lack structure, they may lack respect, or they may simply value their own schedule far more than they value yours. And that imbalance, if left unchecked, can poison relationships, teams, and even self-respect. On the other hand, consider someone who values their own time and yours. They show up ready. They communicate clearly. They stay calm when the unexpected happens. These are the people you want in your corner. Not just because they're reliable, but because they're grounded. They live from intention, not impulse. And that's what Stoicism invites us to practice. Living from a place of conscious control, not emotional chaos. Seeing time as sacred. Seeing inconveniences as training. And seeing every reaction as an opportunity to grow stronger, calmer, and more centered. Because the truth is this: life is made up mostly of small moments. And if you lose yourself in frustration every time something minor goes wrong, you will spend most of your life in a state of tension and resentment. But if you learn to meet those moments with clarity and calm, you will begin to master yourself in a way that no external force can shake. So pay attention to the small things. They are never really small. Watch how someone reacts when their food takes too long, when they're stuck in traffic, when a plan falls apart. Then, notice how they manage their time, how they follow through on their commitments, and how much respect they show to your schedule, not just their own. Because the person who handles the small disruptions with grace, and who values time as a sacred resource, is someone who has done the inner work. They are not chasing control over the outside world. They are focused on mastering what they can actually own themselves. And that kind of mastery is rare. But once you see it, you'll never forget it. Sign number 3. How they handle power, influence, and control. Give someone power, even a little, and you will see who they truly are. You don't need to wait for a crisis. You don't need to hear their values. Just watch what they do when they are in control, even briefly. That is one of the fastest ways to reveal the truth behind their character. The Stoics believed that power was never about status. It was about responsibility. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the most powerful empire in the world, constantly reminded himself to stay humble, to serve, and to resist the temptation of ego. He knew that power doesn't corrupt someone. It exposes them. It brings what's hidden to the surface. So how can you tell if someone deserves the influence they have? Start by watching how they treat people who are under their authority. A team leader, a manager, a teacher, a parent, anyone in a position to guide others. Do they use that position to build or to control? Do they listen? Do they share credit? Or do they dominate the room and silence other voices? Real leaders do not shout to be heard. They serve. They understand that power is not a license to manipulate or intimidate. It is a chance to uplift others and create space for growth. The person who encourages their team, who celebrates others' strengths, who gives without needing the spotlight, that person is using power with wisdom and restraint, and that is rare. On the other hand, when someone becomes aggressive, dismissive, or controlling the moment they are given authority, you are seeing the truth behind the mask. a fragile ego, an unsteady core, someone who confuses control with strength. Epictetus said, "Enchmao, no man is free who is not master of himself." And mastery over self is what separates a real leader from someone simply chasing approval. Watch how someone speaks when they are the expert in the room. Do they educate with humility or dominate with arrogance? Do they invite others into the conversation or use knowledge as a weapon to prove superiority? These details reveal the heart behind their leadership. And power doesn't just appear in big titles, it shows up in subtle moments, holding confidential information, being in a group where someone has more social influence. Even in friendships or relationships, there are constant shifts in power. Someone who uses these moments to control, to guilt, or to manipulate others is showing you exactly what they value and what they don't. But when someone handles those moments with care, when they choose to be fair, when they protect others' dignity, even when they could take advantage, that is integrity in motion, that is real strength. Look at how someone acts in an argument. If they raise their voice to dominate instead of understand, if they use your vulnerabilities against you, if they twist words to win instead of resolve, then you are dealing with someone who sees power as a weapon. That kind of behavior is not just damaging, it's revealing. Power also shows up in how someone deals with pressure. When decisions need to be made, when there's conflict or uncertainty, do they listen with empathy? Do they act from principle instead of panic? Or do they crumble, blame others, and act in their own interest first? The person who stays grounded in those moments, who stays calm without becoming passive, and firm without becoming aggressive, is someone who has done the inner work. They are not ruled by emotion or status. They are led by values. And let's not forget the people who chase power, who crave it, who always need to be in charge. Stoicism teaches us to question that craving. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." A person who constantly seeks control often does so out of fear. Fear of being irrelevant, fear of being questioned. But the person who is at peace with themselves does not need power to feel whole. They use it as a tool, not a shield. In relationships, power can be even more subtle and more revealing. Does someone support their partner's dreams or control their choices? Do they lead with compassion or with expectation? Real intimacy requires balance, and the person who respects that balance, who lifts others up without trying to dominate, is someone worth building a future with. The Stoics believed that real power begins inside, not in titles or roles, but in the ability to rule your own emotions, your own choices, and your own impulses. A person who cannot control themselves will always use external control to compensate. They will demand loyalty, but give none in return. They will expect perfection from others while excusing their own flaws. So the next time you want to understand someone deeply, pay close attention to how they handle power. Do they use it to serve or to be served? Do they bring out the best in others or silence them to feel superior? Do they remain steady when others look to them, or let the pressure reveal their instability? And once again, this is not just about evaluating others. It is about reflecting on yourself. How do you handle power even in small ways? How do you lead, influence, or guide those around you? Do you listen more than you speak? Do you use your strengths to support others? Do you check your ego when you feel the pull to control? Because in the end, power doesn't change people. It reveals what was already there. And the people who use it with humility, empathy, and self-control are the ones who leave a lasting impact. Not because they had authority, but because they had the character to carry it well. Sign number 4, how they treat their closest relationships and the legacy they leave behind. There's one more place where someone's true character always reveals itself. It's not in public. It's not in front of an audience. It's in their most personal relationships. The ones behind closed doors, where the masks usually fall. Because how someone treats a partner, a friend, a family member, or even a child is often the purest reflection of who they are. You can learn a lot from how someone acts when they have nothing to gain, but you can learn even more from how they act when they believe they are safe to be fully themselves. That's when you see their real priorities. That's when you witness their habits, their values, their ability or inability to show up with love, patience, and respect. Stoicism teaches that virtue should not depend on the situation. A person should live the same way in private as they do in public, and if their words sound noble in front of others, but their behavior turns cold, controlling, or dismissive behind closed doors, then something is broken at the core. Character must be consistent, or it cannot be trusted. Watch how someone behaves in moments of tension with a loved one. Do they attack, belittle, or withdraw when they feel misunderstood? Or do they stay present, breathe through the discomfort, and aim to understand instead of win? These are not just relationship skills, they are reflections of emotional strength. As Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. And no one is truly free if they are ruled by pride, defensiveness, or blame. Pay attention to how they speak about people when they're not around. Do they gossip? Do they mock? Or do they show respect even in absence? Because a person who degrades others in private will eventually turn that same energy toward you. Stoicism reminds us to stay grounded in truth and to treat others with the same dignity we wish for ourselves, whether or not they are present to hear it. In strong relationships, you'll find a quiet kind of consistency. Thoughtfulness in small things, respect in hard conversations, humility when wrong, gratitude when helped. These aren't grand gestures, they're daily habits. And they're built by people who hold themselves to a higher standard, not just for others, but for themselves. Now think about their presence. When you talk to them, are they really listening? Or are they distracted, scrolling, or always somewhere else in their mind? The Stoics taught that attention is a form of love. When someone makes time, when they choose presence, they are saying, "You matter." It's not about how much time they have. It's about how they use the time they're given. Seneca wrote, "Life is long if you know how to use it, and those who value their time and yours will show it in how they engage, how they remember the little things, and how they follow through on what they say. The ones who are always late, who break promises without apology, or who constantly shift responsibility onto others, may not be intentionally hurtful, but they're showing a lack of discipline, a lack of respect, and a lack of awareness that often comes from living reactively, not intentionally." And that brings us to one of the most powerful Stoic lessons of all the idea of legacy. Not just what people say about you when you're gone, but how your daily choices shape the world around you while you're still here. The way someone treats others becomes the tone of their life. It ripples outward, into families, into communities, into the next generation. Whether they know it or not, people are always teaching by example, and the ones who act with integrity, who admit mistakes, who show patience in adversity, and who strive to grow those people leave a lasting mark. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that every day he was shaping his soul. Every decision, every action was either strengthening virtue or weakening it. And in the same way, how someone behaves in their relationship shows whether they are walking the path of virtue or abandoning it for comfort, control, or ego. If they hold grudges instead of forgiving. If they demand perfection but offer little grace. If they expect loyalty but give none. These are all signs of a person still ruled by fear and pride. But if they choose the harder road to be honest, when it's easier to lie, to listen when it's easier to interrupt, to stay when it's easier to walk away, then you are looking at someone who is building something rare and lasting. Personal growth is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming honest. It's about seeing your patterns and choosing better ones. And the people who consistently grow in this way, who take responsibility for their actions and who care about how their energy affects those around them, are often the people who make others feel safer, stronger, and more inspired. They don't just live Stoicism, they embody it. And they teach it, not through lectures or philosophy quotes, but through presence, patience, and example. Whether they're raising children, mentoring someone younger, or simply showing kindness to a stranger, they are passing down a philosophy of self-control, of virtue, and of peace. Zeno said, "Well-being is realized by small steps, but it is no small thing. Every small step we take in a relationship, every kind word, every effort to understand rather than react, is a step toward a better life and a better world." So, when you want to understand someone's true character, look at their closest connections. Look at how they love. Look at how they listen. Look at what they do when relationships get difficult. Do they stay grounded or do they escape? Do they work to grow or do they shut down and run? And finally, ask yourself the same. Because this sign is not just a window into others. It's a mirror for your own evolution. How do you show up for the people you care about? Are your words aligned with your actions? Do you lead with judgment or with grace? Do you react with emotion or respond with wisdom? The answers to those questions will reveal more than any test. more than any title, more than any opinion ever could. Because in the end, your character is not defined by how you treat strangers on your best day, but by how you treat those closest to you, consistently, intentionally, and with virtue. That is the ultimate test. And it is one we face every single day. Now that we've explored these 4 powerful signs, take a moment to reflect, not just on what they reveal about others, but on what they reveal about yourself. True character is never about appearances. It's not about what you say or how you seem when things are going well. It's about how you act when no one's watching. It's about how you treat people who have nothing to offer. It's about how you respond when life doesn't go your way. It's about how you handle responsibility, power, and control. And it's about how you show up day after day in your most personal relationships. These 4 signs are not just tools for observation. They are mirrors. They show us who we really are and who we are becoming. The Stoics didn't chase popularity. They didn't obsess over status. They focused on living with virtue, even in a world that constantly pulled them in other directions. They believed that the greatest power you could ever have was control over yourself. That wisdom wasn't just knowing what to do, it was doing it, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. So as you go about your day, ask yourself, how do I treat people when there's nothing to gain? Do I stay calm when things go wrong? Do I keep my word even when it's inconvenient? Do I lead with humility when given power? Do I show up in my relationships with patience, love, and presence? These questions are not meant to create shame. They are meant to wake us up to bring awareness to how we live and how we lead ourselves through life. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That is the message at the heart of Stoicism. Don't just study these signs, live them. Use them. Become someone who others can trust, admire, and learn from, not because you're perfect, but because you're honest, disciplined, and striving for something greater. If this message spoke to you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you're ready to go deeper into Stoic philosophy and build a life based on clarity, resilience, and self-mastery, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Tell us which of these 4 signs do you believe reveals the most about someone's true character. Let us know in the comments. And remember, the smallest choices you make today are shaping the person you become tomorrow. Thank you for watching Deep Dive Stoic. Until next time, stay grounded, stay intentional, and keep walking the path of virtue.